everybody. Today I'm going to talk about books that I've read. Now, if you're new here, Casino is ringing the bell. So, as a kid and in general now, I'm not really much of a reader, but I did want to talk about a few of the books that I did read throughout when I was a kid and through the end of high school, and I kind of want to talk about it. So yeah, let's get started. So the first one is No David. So, No David was probably the first book that I really remember being read to us when I was younger. I think it was maybe kindergarten. No, it might have been first grade. Like, first grade was really when I started to remember things. I think the reason why I like this book still is because it shows that, like, David was a freaking menace. Like, I would not be surprised if David turned out to be a jail convict. Because, like, even in terms of, like, misbehaving like 3 or 4 or 5-year-olds, this guy was crazy. I was not really the most well-behaved kid, especially in early elementary school, but even back then, I knew this was really crazy of a kid to do. I really like this book still because it actually kind of shows that the parents don't tolerate this behavior. I mean, I don't know if they really let it happen, but just their kid is crazy. But I think the reason why I find it a little bit similar is there's this show that everyone hates, called Caillou, and I kind of find it a little similar because, well, one of the things is that both of the kids are bald, but, like, I feel like the difference is, with this book compared to Caillou, is that Caillou literally, gets away with everything. His parents don't punish him at all. I mean, he wasn't, like, necessarily punished, but, like, they would tell him, no, David, and that's the name of the book. But, like, they would tell him, don't do that. And, like, I feel like that is a little bit better of a message than Caillou. Because Caillou was not a good show. It really kind of made kids copy him and get away with whatever they want to. So, yeah, I do find those a little similar in that way, where, like, misbehaving kids that are often annoying. Because, like, I feel like with Caillou is that Caillou is mainly there to, like, hurt people. Especially when that one time that Caillou pinched the baby's cheek, it was just, Caillou is such an unlikable character. Like, David is a little bit more funny in terms of, like, the crazy stuff he would do, and that's kind of why I like him a little bit better, if I had to choose. But No David was pretty crazy. So number 2 is Chrysanthemum. So I don't know how many people really remember this book, but this was around first grade. I think this was first grade, actually. So basically the plot is that Chrysanthemum is a young kid, and she goes into school, and people make fun of her name. And, like, basically they make fun of her name, and they say that she's a flower, and, like, kind of mock her on that. When I was younger, this was probably the first book that I remember that really told me to not call people names. And, I mean, I wasn't bad at that, unless if I was cussing later on. But, like, I really like this book still. And actually, what's really funny about this book is, when I read it, I made up this story for some reason to my mom that someone called me a flower. I don't know if I can show the footage because I was shirtless and I was a kid, so people are weird nowadays. But, like, basically, I was making up this whole story about how this kid called me a flower. And, like, I think I just kind of wanted attention, and I thought that I didn't get attention back then. But it's kind of funny because, like, I made up this entire story, and my mom didn't believe it. She recorded the whole thing. It's just, I find it kind of hilarious, and I remember my mom asking my first grade teacher, what's going on? And then she said, oh, it's just a book that we read. He's basically copying it. So yeah, that was kind of funny, but yeah, I actually like that book because it just tells people to not, or tells kids to not make fun of people. So yeah. Number 3 is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So this is honestly probably the first book series that I've ever read. And I think the thing is, though, is that I didn't really read all of them. Like, I mean, I was a fan of the first few books, but, like, even back then, I was kind of overwhelmed with how many they are. But looking back at it now, there's barely any compared to now. Like, now there's over 20 books. It's still going. I'm like, how long has this kid been in middle school? Like, it's so crazy. So, yeah, I think I read up until Dog Days. Dog Days was probably the last one I remember reading. I think that was the 4th one. It's just crazy how many books there are. But the main thing I look back at now with this book series is Greg is a freaking sociopath. I don't care what anyone says. Like, he just does so many unforgivable things. And, like, it's kind of a miracle that Rowley is still his friend, because he treats Rowley like crap. I mean, some people kind of say that they feel bad for him because, like, he was, like, a middle schooler who does get bullied sometimes, but he just is a piece of crap friend. And he's kind of not a very good person. It's just, like, even in terms of, like, middle schooler people who are sometimes really annoying going through, like, puberties and stuff like that, like, he's still a crappy person. And, like, that whole family is crazy. I mean, the only normal one out of that entire family is Roderick. Roderick is just kind of a normal teenager who's a little bit angsty and stuff, but, like, Manny is annoying. The mom is basically lets Manny do almost anything. And the dad is actually kind of interesting, like, comparing the book to the movies, because, like, the book, he just kind of, like, neglects, maybe not, it's kind of neglects his kids and, like, with the action figures and stuff, which I actually did like that change in the movies. Like, I love how that actor basically made him a completely different character, that he is a crazy dad. Like, I kind of like that character more than in the books. But actually, I think Greg is a little bit better in the movies, but in the books, like, he just does some unforgivable stuff. Like, freaking, like, breaking Rowley's arm and then trying to take credit and, like, because, like, I remember, like, with that scene in the movies and also in the book, that, like, Rowley broke his arm and he's getting women from it, citing his cast, he's getting attention, and Greg, of course, has to make it about himself. It's just, Greg is not a good friend. And, like, looking back at it now, he just was terrible. But yeah, I actually really do like the book still. I haven't read it in a while, but I do remember getting this one book called, I think it's like a not sketchbook, but like, do-it-yourself book. I still have it somewhere. It's basically where, like, it's like an activity book themed to Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and I actually really like that book. And, like, I really like customizable books like that. And, yeah, that's actually probably my favorite Diary of a Wimpy Kid thing out of everything. It's just, like, filling out all these prompts and stuff. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. Number 4 is Captain Underpants. So, Captain Underpants, it's kind of a funny series. And, like, this was kind of a little bit past my age demographic. Like, I was a little bit older than I probably should have been reading these books. Like, I was probably around 5th or 6th grade, and these were kind of made for younger audiences, but I found the books funny. And, like, I read up to book 10. I literally had almost all of them. But sadly, I did get rid of a lot of them. Like, I remember back when I was, like, 6th grade around that time, I had a miniature garage sale, and I didn't tell my mom at all. It was right in front of my driveway, and I remember someone drove by and laughed at me, which is kind of sad. But, like, I remember getting rid of some of the books, and actually there were a couple of people who did buy stuff from me, but I do kind of regret getting rid of them, because, like, I have thought about reading it again, because, like, some of the things are kind of interesting, and also, like, this was kind of the really first controversial book series that I've read. And I really sometimes put that in quotes, because, like, it's kind of overblown on the controversy that it had. Like, in some places it was banned entirely. In some schools they didn't want you to read it. And I think one of the controversies was that, I think it was like Harold's parents were like the same-sex couple, and like they made this huge controversy about it. I don't know, it's just like, I feel like it did not need to be banned, and people said that it was like offensive in terms of like potty humor and stuff. I'm like, kids like that, and like I just felt like the controversy even back then was overblown. But yeah, Captain Underpants was interesting. Number 5 is the Guinness Book of World Records. So I loved these books when I was younger. Like, I remember getting these all the time when I could at the library, because they got so popular after a while, and this was around middle school, that the library started putting a limit on how many you can get. You can only get one. And I can kind of see why they did it, because like they were so popular. Like, even the older ones, like I remember every kid loved these books, and I did too. And I think one of the things I really enticed kids about it is the really colorful covers, especially in the earlier hardback books. Like, those have really cool covers. And like, even though they were dated by the time that even I read them, like, I actually really liked it. And like, I remember, I think the last one that I read or owned personally was the 2013 version. But some of the records were really freaking weird. Like, and I actually did like that. Like, I really did like a lot of the versatility in terms of like the variety in terms of like the records itself. But the one that I remember the most, and it's kind of gross, is the longest fingernails ever. And when I saw that, I got a little nauseous when I first saw it. Like, there's this woman, or back then, who had freaking fingernails that were so long, like it would be extending past the screen, like it was that long. And I just kind of felt gross when I saw it. And like, there were some freaking crazy records on there. So yeah, so that was weird. Number 6 is the Percy Jackson series. So this is probably the first kind of more teen and early adult books that I've read. And like, I actually really liked this book series a lot because I was kind of interested in like the Greek gods and like Hades and like Zeus and all that. Like, I was kind of interested in those stories, and I still kind of think they're pretty cool. But I read up to, I think, the Titan's Curse, which is the third one. I didn't really find out how it ended, but honestly, like, this was a book series that I really loved. But honestly, like, it's kind of ruined a little bit though, because the 2 movies were freaking awful. I mean, like, I hated the second one more, but I mean, I wasn't like a die-hard Percy Jackson fan when I saw those movies, but when I saw them, I was just like, even I was like, these movies are terrible. And like, it's just like, these are so inaccurate. And actually, I did hear that they are making a Disney Plus series, and they've released a few seasons on that. I haven't seen that yet, which I probably need to. But I kind of wish that I read all the books when I was younger back then. I just didn't have that commitment nearly as much as I do now, if I did want to read it again. But yeah. Number 7 is The Hunger Games. So, The Hunger Games is kind of a dark story. And like, I knew back then, I was like, this is pretty dark for a story like this. And the only thing is that I only watched the first one of the movies. I did read all 3 of the books. It's kind of crazy seeing all these teens and like learning that they get murdered. Like, and it's kind of crazy that it just has this dystopian feel to it. It's like, it's so kind of like dystopian in the way of like, there's almost kind of no hope to it for a lot of the series. Like, I mean, I kind of liked that it was kind of tragic because like, you just see and hear a lot of these teenagers die in like crazy ways, and like the corrupt government of President Snow and stuff like that. But honestly, I didn't really like it as much as other people did. Like, I mean, I wasn't like a diehard fan either, but I did like the books a little bit more. But yeah. Number 8 is The Crucible. So this is the first book that I read in high school. And so basically, The Crucible was about the Salem witch trials. It's kind of loosely based on the partially fictional story of this girl named Abigail Williams who falsely accuses people of witchcraft, or also that the whole town believes that witchcraft is going on. Abigail Williams was such an unlikable character. Like, she was so annoying, and like, also like, she basically caused everything. And like, the fact that she didn't get any repercussions, like she didn't get any punishment herself, is so freaking crazy. Now, honestly though, like, a lot of the characters are not saints either. Like, I mean, freaking John Proctor was dating her at 17. She was 17, he was like in his early 30s. And actually, even in the real life that I've heard, is that she was 11 and he was like in his 60s. This was even worse. That problematic age gap, I remember, was freaking crazy when we first heard about it in school. But my favorite moment in this book is one of the characters is accused, I believe, of witchcraft. And I think it was like either you go to like jail or you get killed or you get executed. And the guy chooses to get executed, and my favorite moment is when they're putting the stones on top of his chest. His last words were "more weight." It was a really good scene, and also in the book. That was definitely the book scene that I remember the most. And like, that really had a lot of weight, no pun intended, in terms of that scene. So that's actually the scene that really was my favorite out of the entire book. So yeah. So the next one is Of Mice and Men. This book was kind of blah. Like, I mean, I didn't really care for it. I mean, there's a few scenes that I do like that I'll mention in a second, but I think the part about Lenny being mentally disabled and like kind of acts like a kid is kind of interesting, and the fact that the other character was kind of like a parent to him in some way. But another thing that I do remember about this book is the first book that I've ever seen that's used the N-word. And like, what's interesting is that so many of these teachers want to say the N-word for historical significance or like historical purposes. And I don't know if they absolutely have to say it. So, like, I mean, I feel like people just want to say it so badly. Like, I don't know why. Like, I've heard a lot of white people also say it in high school too. I just don't get it. And then actually the favorite scene of the book is the part where Lenny dies. And I actually really like that ending, and because I feel like, especially after he accidentally kills the wife, and like the fact that he shoots him and just puts him out of his misery, because he was on the run, because he accidentally killed the wife, like the people were trying to look for him, and I think the guy didn't want him to die a horrible death. So I actually really like that ending. And the last one is Animal Farm. And this actually is my favorite book that I've read in high school. And like, I loved this book. And like, it's not really that long. Yeah, this is the last book that I read before I graduated. And what's interesting about this book is that I didn't read an actual copy of it, like physically. I read it on this app, or on the Chromebooks that they used to give us called Reading Ally. It would be like kind of an audiobook, but it would show like the pages too, and it would have like this robot voice reading it. And I really liked this book because it also just kind of showed like a similarity to like the USSR and stuff like that, and like discrimination, and like it's a pretty brutal book. And also, I haven't not seen the 1954 version. I mean, I've seen a couple scenes, but I haven't seen the full thing. And I actually do want to maybe do a video about that, like also comparing the Animal Farm from 1954, maybe the book, to the new one, because the new one looks horrible. The one that is being released by Angel Studios, and apparently this movie was turned down by every other studio except Angel Studios. And like, Angel Studios is kind of far right anyway, which I don't think is going to be religious or anything in that way. I watched that trailer, and the trailer is absolutely horrible. And I kind of knew that there wasn't going to be much hope for it, because I was like, how are they going to do this in this modern art audience where people can't handle anything anymore? Now, they just made it a standard kids movie. Now, some people say that the trailer might be deceiving in that way, where like it shows that it might be just a bad trailer and the movie is actually pretty good. I don't think so. I think the reason why is just there's too much footage. There's too much footage of the crap. Like, I think if it was like shown a little bit less footage and it was like kind of like mysterious, I think it could be a better trailer. But just the fact that I think there's way too much footage for it to be good. And like, the fact that it's so in the future and they have to show this tech billionaire thing and they leave the farm entirely, it's just terrible. So, I will probably make a video about that movie of the newer Animal Farm, because it looks terrible. But yeah, so I really like the book, and I like the rise of Napoleon, and yeah, so it was a pretty good book. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry that this video is a little longer than it needed to be. I actually have it recorded for 23 minutes on here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.